Hey you guys, it's Jet888 here on March 18th. I'm in Southern California, and these were some clouds that were in my sky just a couple days ago, and it's kind of unusual to have these big, healthy, puffy looking thunder clouds because I'm used to seeing clouds that are more like this, with the spraying in the sky and the aerosols that are all over the place when we look up in the sky, or they look like this, like the scalar waves. See the patterns in there? Those are scalar wave patterns. So like frequencies that are being shot through the sky to make the clouds look like that. When I looked at the anagram for the word thunderclouds, this is what came up: DD Hurt Council or 100 Locust, and DD equals DuPont. So also the words thunderclouds and gematria, those are the numbers, and trust the plan was the first thing that came up. What also came up was raise gematria, and I felt this was more fitting because the silence of the storm. And the silence of the storm, oops, I spelled that wrong. There you go. Because some of the things I've read in some documents, and I'll share them with you now, and then we'll come back to the thunderclouds. In this PDF file, this Monarch, the New Phoenix program, I'll leave you the link. These are the topics that are covered. So regarding the Phoenix program, I can read this to you, but I could just leave you the link as well, so I'll take up less time. But it says that assassinating suspected VC sympathizers in a systematic manner worked well and is a blueprint for the current Black Op targeting thousands of loyal Americans using state-of-the-art microwave and radio frequency radiation these are RFR weapons. The motivation to suppress domestic dissidents and to assassinate loyal American opposition stems from the perception of dissent against the war on treason as treason. And remember how the Capitol Hill, the people are being referred to as mobs or mobsters? They're going to use that as an excuse to attack the American public. It says this philosophy is stated very clearly in the Mind War paper written by NSA General Aquino. The DoD has a huge stake in futuristic technology that kills by ionizing radiation, leaving little or no trace. The indiscriminate killing of the Phoenix program continues on American soil. This term soft kill, slow kill, and silent kill refer to the new way of killing the enemy in conflicts short of war and the small wars of the future. So this gives a list of people: Shackley, Helms, Casey, Abrams, etc. And it says, and others have built the perfect beast using selective assassination that leaves no trace. The ability to cull the human herd with silent kill technology allows a few personalities to remake the entire society in their own image. Anybody come to mind? Extremely low frequency, that's ELF, so ELF. You're looking at like Tinkerbell there for the content providers. They kind of make fun of that. Extremely low frequency ELF technology kills with ionizing and non-ionizing radiation or slowly drives the target crazy with silent sound. Similar to CIA MKUltra psychiatrist Ewan Cameron's psychic driving technique used. These methods were not enough to torture and murder people. Add this to Nightmare's toolbox, active gain stalking, so etc. It just talks about what these people are doing. And it says once this weaponry has been perfected on these few thousands of people, the same techniques will be applied to general population and then to humanity as a whole. But this paper, I'll find out when it was written, but it's an older article. This guy Alexander states it's interesting that it's coming back, and he's talking about the MKUltra with the mind control. And anyhow, he states that behavior modification can be the alternative to terrorism, I guess he means, and allows us to release someone into society because they can completely control them. So he says, maybe I can fix you or electronically neuter you so it's safe to release you into society so you won't come back and kill me, Alexander says. It's only a matter of time before technology allows that scenario to come true. We're now getting to where we can do that. Where does that fall in the ethics spectrum? That's a really tough question. The answer should be that shouldn't be done. Ethics is terrible. But for him to even think that that's a really tough question, why is that a tough question? That just shows you how lacking in moral behavior these people have. Okay, so this article was written in 2010. So imagine what they did since 2010. And here's the address. Archive.org, details Monarch, the new Phoenix program. That was page 441 I read from. So I'll leave you the link to this. So why I'm doing this video is because I want to show people how so many of the public-private partnerships and our government and entertainment, media, tech people, they're all in it together. So when, Fauci or Como, they keep saying, we're all in this together. You know what? I don't think they're talking about we, like as in we the people. I think they're talking about we as in the public-private partnerships, the conglomerates of the corporate world. So I'm going to show you how these public-private partnerships, their logos, the wording, the gematria, the anagrams, constantly are coming up with the same theme over and over. And they use that as psychological operations. They put it out there, but they're kind of hiding it. But, if you know enough to look, I'm going to show you how these things keep crossing paths with each other, these dark entities. So one PDF file I found called Global Futures Report, the Alternative Futures to Geopolitical Competition in a Post-COVID-19 World. It's not post-COVID yet, but do you see this? Here's this logo, and I noticed that to me looks like the phoenix, the bird, the phoenix. And they always hide behind mythology, but here's the phoenix. That's what they do. Look at the fire under it. So this says phoenix mythology. In ancient Greek folklore, the phoenix is a long-lived bird that cyclically regenerates or is otherwise born again. Associated with the sun, the phoenix obtains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessors. Some legends say it dies in a show of flames and combustions. Others say it simply dies and decomposes before being born again. Kind of like the silent war, the slow kill. In the motif index of folk literature, a tool used by folklorists, the phoenix is classified as motif B32. Here's a B32 Dominator, Consolidated B-32 Dominator, American Heavy Strategic Bomber by U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. And that's interesting because this says B-32 Engineering Group specializes in the planning, consultation, design, and construction, administration of the ice system for ice arena facilities. Anyone feel any cold lately? So this is a B-32 engineering group for skating and for sports. A division college to NHL facilities. Here we have a page that talks about B-32 across a number of frequency bands. So now we're getting into bandwidths. You're going to see how they keep cross-referencing each other and playing off each other. See this? Adapt or die. Looking at the anagram, adapt or die, it's radiated op. So this PDF says a collaborative analysis with foresight practitioners and experts. So here's the introduction. Talks about, relies on all three. Hang on, there's something I want to show you here. So we are living far from equilibrium system when novel and even catastrophic changes are most likely. However, in every alternative future, no matter how severe or unexpected, there are always winners and losers. The organization's best positions to seize and incorporate the exploits of the new order will be those with the capability to perceive, learn, and adapt even when the signals from tomorrow may seem utterly ridiculous today. So when the signals, like radio frequency signals, so they use the word definitive, and that could be divine ITFI, divine IT Phi. Now here's Project Phi. Project Phi is a mobile virtual network operator by Google providing phone, messaging, and data services using both Wi-Fi cellular networks. Look at that. Launched April 22nd. That's 4/21. When I looked at Google Phi, super fast coverage, 5G full speed tethering. Here's Project Phi. There's a Phi smart dog collar, and it's at tryphi.com. And when I looked at that anagram, tryphi is to track you. It says connect with a unique community of Phi dog owners. That's to track you guys. Phi dogs. Where did I get the iRift? I guess that's part of the tryphi. But the word rift, an open space as in a forest or a cloud mass. A break in friendly relations. Sees interest that causes such a break in friendly relations. So there they've got the rift. Now the front of this PDF, it was under publicintelligence.net, and this is the first page that came up. Look at that, public interest, and the word public is blocked out. Look that with the barbed wire, the fencing in front of isn't that our Capitol there? Look. So this PDF was what I was reading to you guys. U.S. Air Force Global Futures Report, Alternative Futures, Geopolitical Competition in a Post-COVID-19 World. It talks about the chaotic cycle of rapid change, fallout, supply chains. So in the first paragraph it says, to be sure, the fallout from COVID-19 has revealed overlooked vulnerabilities for our supply chains, our society, our economy, and most pertinent to this report, our national security strategy, which relies on all three. Remember the September event where two towers were side by side, weren't there anymore? And they use that as an excuse to take away our freedoms? Well, that's the same thing that's happening with this. When I looked at the word which relies on all three, because they put it in bold, the anagram was healthier HL clowneries, and HL equals T, and T equals Kabbalah, able. Talk about able birds. Listen, they're overhead right now. They're so disruptive. So remember also when we looked at, I was talking about the football field, and the football field's gematria was trip, and I thought that was T-rip, and I was worried about past President Trump. I'm thinking the target is actually us. We're the target. Or it could be Kabbalah rips us. So here's that definitive divine IT Phi, which is all about that and full speed tethering. Of course, they're totally tethering. They're going to track, target, and trace us, you guys. And maybe I'm reading this wrong, but listen to this sentence. The primary aim of this report is to disrupt how we conceptualize national security futures. Disrupt. So they're the disruptors. And the word disrupt, I played with a little bit, but that's D purist, D trip us, or trip, it's O. Remember the D-Day, the beginning of the end? That's what I'm thinking this is, the D. So also I talk about trip, and it's O, so that equals it's O, so that must be the gematria. But anyhow, thanks Lieutenant Colonel Jacob S. Sutter, whatever, PhD, Chief Strategic Foresight and Futures Branch, right. So here's the city of Phoenix that also uses the look of the phoenix. So when I looked up Phoenix, again, the folklore, look at that's the word, Phi-nix. Like the Project Phi. Remember the tracking? Oh, they also use music. But when this talks and it shows phonics, because they're such wordsmiths, they play with words and letters all the time. And here's the ancient Greek. Look, that's the word for in the Greek. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it has a Q in it. So there's that word, Q-ophonics. I don't even know how to say that, sorry. But it's Q, when I broke it down, Q oven pi 3 hoax. And 3 I's equals cabal, gas code, BLM, oak, and there's the numbers. And 3, it can also be AGA, 2 gas, and I'm going to show you that also. See, there's the letters, the cabal, and that, the GAIIA is AGA 2 gas. So looking at that word hoax, and I'm going from this word here, which is the ancient Greek word for phoenix. So it talks about anatomy archaic rare. It's a hamstring. So hawks equals hamstring is smart nigh. That's the anagram for hamstring, is smart nigh. And you know how they're all into the smart meters, the smart everything right now? So nigh, the definition is near in space, time, or relationship. As it says, the time draws near. And here, the time is nigh. It's nearly time. So now what happens when I go back and look at the football fields, that I'm now seeming a lot of regarding that daily pass. Remember this Austin guy? We talked about him. Here's the daily pass logo. And football, and even Gavin Newsom made a lot of appearances on football fields. One recently, he's talking to people or walking on a football field. So the football theme seemed to be something to look at. So the football, when I looked at football field, it's different than football, and I'll go back there, but football field, the words were plague, target, telephone, and that's where it goes back to that phi that goes back to the target tracing. Colors, which I'll get into that. March 15th. That was that Einstein's birthday, or was it March 14th? I can't remember. George Floyd. Ray's date, a December ID, and that means days eradicated. That's the code. That's decoding a code right there. So Ray's date, a December ID, equals days eradicated. So football field equals days eradicated. And eradicate, I just looked at that. I think most of us know what that means, but it says to pull up, sorry about my phone, so to pull up by, which I think that we're getting ready to have that happen. So look, eradicate us, eradicus, eradicate us. Another numerical value to football field was a December 7th, it's DEC, 7th ID, and the anagrams for that is detached veins, vested chained, evaded ethics, evinced deaths, hide encased TV. So that March 15th, it was part of the football field. That anagram is aw cement riff. And the riff, it's aw cement riff, and this is going to be significant because remember during the Super Bowl halftime show, all of the violins that were being played? Well, let's see, this is H equals a bad, and A is dad, father, and that's ABBA, which father ABBA, that's going to come into play because of Tom Brady, and I'll tell you that later. But riff is a repeated chord progression or refrain in music, and coming down here. And the reason why I'm showing you this about music and stuff is because they're going to be using sonar weaponry against us. So I just wanted people to know about it. But this ostinato figure, a short melody or pattern that is constantly repeated, usually in the same part at the same pitch, but it's almost kind of like how they are always continually showing us the same type of logos and symbology, and I'll show you about this is going to all keep coming into play. So March 15th, the gematria for that is Notre Dame, Ace of Spades, child trafficking, and electronic. And we saw what happened to Notre Dame, right? Was it a year or two ago? How it burnt down? So in this article still, this PDF file, and they talk about the disrupt and the D trip us, and the trip equals its O. So here's the gematria for trip, and the number is 249, but God's a man, a DC ID, and that's D, MIA, gasconated. And gasconated, they talk about future perfect. I will have gasconated, you will have gasconated, he, she, it will have gasconated. Isn't that ridiculous? But anyhow, this says up here, gasconated. They mention swashbuckling and the Three Musketeers. Now remember, the Buccaneers were the players of the Super Bowl 55 this year. The Buccaneers, those are pirates, as swashbucklers. But the word trip, football, end of time, collapse, that's Otis. That's where I got the it's O. Dune, and I'm going to cover the Dune thing also, but the Hidden King, Miami, Florida, which Florida was where the Super Bowl was, and Pioneer. So look at the word trip and trying to decode that God's a man, a D ID, and it's M. Gas Don Caddy, and Caddy is a student military officer. So in the front page of this, and they AFWIC is C waif and Phi Ka. And remember, a lot of times that Health and Human Services, how they had that profile of the bird, I kept talking about being like a caw, like a crow, murder of crows. So Phi Ka, and Phi is like the electronic tracking. So electronic tracking and murder. And then the same, we're just going through the front page right now, but National Security Futures, NFA, remember the swirly thing? You see that in a lot of the logos. NFA is fan. And remember all those cardboard cutout fans in the stadium? Okay, you guys, so in the interest of keeping other people's interests, I'm going to make this short. I'm going to cut this, and this will just be part 1. But look at this is my workboard of everything. I'm gonna have to get into that because Pi Day is significant. The meaning behind it. There's our Super Bowl trophies. This gets into Alpha and Omega. Anyhow, we're gonna keep trying to cover this, and I'm just gonna keep chipping away at it. And so this is kind of where we are right down here. And this is what I'm going to start covering in section 2. So thanks for hanging with me, you guys. So this was part 1, and look forward to part 2.